Hello viewers, Super GT here. Now this was one of my more controversial but also funny moments in Gran Turismo 7. It all took place here at Bathurst, down at the final corner on the final lap with a big moment of madness. Now the story actually begins a couple of hours earlier. We're going to jump into the Mazda Atenza, which is basically the most overpowered car in history in Group 4. Now, this is manufacturer's round 3, Bathurst 4 laps. This was my first attempt at this race. I had 3 attempts to get a good score here. Now, my first race, qualified 3rd, currently sat in 3rd, and this was decent because we're in the top split here, so up against some of the big names, some of the fastest players in the game, and the Mazda Atenza was carrying me to glory, at least a podium, if you call that glory, I don't know. Now, the end of this race was, well, it was actually quite a boring race because I stayed in 3rd basically the whole time. Couldn't really do too much, didn't really move forward or backwards. So we finished 3rd, 2.5 seconds away from the race win, and we pick up a decent haul of points. Fastest lap, clean race, 3rd position. Just reminded everyone there that that was all because of the driver, not to do with the car at all. Getting 355 points, which is the most I've ever got in an FIA race / World Series race. We had 2 chances left to go. I felt as though if I could improve my qualifying, I could get a better result. Look at the leaderboard there. Top 10 stars, dominated by the Atenza. Only the BMW M4 can realistically challenge this car on outright pace, and I thought I'd take a look at the number 1 time for a bit of inspiration on how to take this track quickly with this very car. And it's really a case of really maximising the track limits. Look at that, getting as close to Barrier as you possibly can without touching him. And with that in mind, I jumped into my own qualifying session here, or time trial session, tried to improve my current record of 2:14.0, and it didn't take particularly long because on my first attempt here we improved to a 2:12.8, and that puts us in good stead here as we jump into our second attempt, still in the top split and therefore up against the best players. We're going to try and do a good job here of securing ourselves a good result in a good car. And qualifying was really about just trying to create some space for myself, knowing the power potential of this thing down the straights. I felt as though I wanted to get some room. Now traditionally in most lobbies I try and get in the slipstream, but here it was really just a case of creating space, and I don't know if I created enough because quite quickly as we ascend the mountain you can see that I'm already onto the back of a pair of cars here, the Viper and the Scirocco, and this is surely going to slow me down slightly here as we go across the top of the mountain, and not exactly what you want in a qualifying session, to be slowed down. So we're just going to continue, do the best we can. Might have to overtake 1 or 2 of them on the back straight in towards the chase. That's exactly what's going to happen as we pull alongside the Scirocco down the inside. Not normally ideal to have to do an overtake on your qualifying lap, but sometimes you just got to do it, and that's exactly what we did do there. Down towards the final corner, and let's see what lap time we can achieve. Watch the Viper here, going for a nice little Tokyo drift session over the final curb off the final corner, and we set a 2:13.1, good enough for 3rd, only a 1/4 of a second away from pole position at that point there. I felt as though we could have easily have lost a 1/4 of a second over the top of the mountain, stuck in the traffic. And this was a huge moment for me as I kind of rejoined in a really bad position there. I should have looked behind, so my bad on that one. Not very good driving at all. Firstly to make the mistake, and secondly to keep my foot in and then try to rejoin. Now that made it much worse for me because I missed the chance to go for another lap. That mistake cost me that lap. It also cost me a chance at another lap, and ultimately I qualified in 6th position when perhaps I should have been 4th or maybe third if I had just improved slightly with another opportunity. But hey ho, you make mistakes, and well, here we are in 6th position, confirming the status as a Super GT video. And we begin this one annoyingly on the corner, and I do feel as though they need to improve these rolling starts still, because they're a little bit too spread out. Already 1.2 seconds away from the guy in front, and we've barely started the race. So the first lap of these races, when you have these spread out rolling starts, it's really just trying to catch up. You're not really ever going to really fight a huge amount on these first laps, certainly in the first half of the first lap. So we just got to get our head down here, try to catch up the best we can with Devil Soul there in the Citroen, and make up some ground. It's going to be difficult because I finished third in the last one, 355 points, and I think I'm going to have to match that here, at least if I want to improve my score. So we're going to have to make up some ground. I didn't get into the slipstream here, onto the back straight at the end of the first lap, and that certainly didn't help. But I did manage to gain back some time given the power of this car. Through the chase, taking an okay line, gaining a few tenths. Into the final corner, braking just after the 100 board, perhaps about 75 metres into the before the corner. And you see just how much ground we gain on Devil Soul. And we're taking about 2 or 3 tenths away on each corner here, so good on the brakes, gaining the time on the way in and on the way out. And take a look at the power difference here between the Citroen and the Mazda. Now it's clear, of course I'm in the slipstream, but still, it's almost like I'm in a Group 3.5 car rather than a Group 4 car, as it's not really a contest, going easily past him and taking 5th. So we need to make a lot more progress really, and that's good. That's a good start. You see at the end of lap 2, really not far away from the lead, 2.5 seconds away from first, and we were about 4 seconds away at the beginning. So we are actually gaining, setting the fastest lap of the race there, 2:13.1. That kind of proves what I was just saying. We are fairly quick at the moment, and it's kind of frustrating that I wasn't able to set a better qualifying lap, because with such a short race I'm a bit too far back to do the damage now. And speaking of damage, Flooper racing there into the wall and losing crucial momentum. We're going to run side by side through this one, and we're going to claim 4th. Now that was good for position, but you can see the gap to the cars in front does open up quite significantly, and by the end of lap number 4, the end of the race here, I wasn't really able to catch up with that group. So ultimately, bringing the car home in 4th, still a decent result I suppose, from 6th, but ruining our missed chance in qualifying there really. Now this was probably the biggest mistake I made, doing daily race A in between my second and third attempt at the manufacturers, and as you can see it was full of carnage. Half of it me dishing it out, half of it me having it dished out against me. That made no sense, but you get my point. And smashing to the back of this guy, getting ourselves a 2-second penalty and crossing the line in 9th. And what that did, unfortunately for me, is put me into a lower rated lobby. As you can see, not many of the top split names in this one, it has to be said. And well, that would completely ruin our chance of getting a decent score. 355 points in the first attempt. And for those that don't know, it always takes your most recent score, so you can run the race multiple times, but it always takes your recent score. So if you get a good score, you run the risk of getting a worse score by going again. So that's exactly what I've done. I should have really just bagged 355, not really bothered making a video because it wasn't that exciting, and then just ran away and not bothered. But in the interest of content, you know, I thought let's go again, try and see what we can do. And here we are with this very video. So this is my first lap here. It was all about getting space. As you can see, I'm just well on my own here, setting a 2:13.0, about half a second quicker than second at that point there. And we had one more attempt. We only had 2 flying laps here on this one here, because I slowed down so much at the start to get the space. But we improved to a 2:12.6, which is a pretty decent lap, and that's the kind of lap I needed to do in the previous qualifying session. Now, the BMW in second went and did a 2:12.9, which was very impressive in the BMW, and it meant that I did actually have to improve my lap there. So luckily I did. And it also showed that this is going to be a race, because that guy in the BMW, you know, only being 3/10 off, that's not a huge difference really. I mean, in terms of motorsport, okay, yes, you could say 3/10 is basically a year, but it basically shows that he's, you know, he's not to be taken as a fool. He can certainly drive. Therefore, this might not be an easy race. Actually make a hash of the first corner and lose crucial momentum all the way down this back straight here. And ideally on lap 1, what I need to do is try to break away from that BMW and just establish pure and utter dominance in this race, and really just give him no chance of thinking that he's even in a race with me. So that's the main ideology here, to really just crush all of his hopes and dreams of winning this race. But it's not really happening, because as we go through his first lap, he is more than able here to keep up with me and keep this gap at around about 7, 8 or 9 tenths, proving that he's more than capable here of winning this race should I drop the ball and bottle it completely. And this is actually where it begins to happen, because as we drop down here, I take the apex so well on that left-hander. Like, I took it too well that the stewards were clearly just not happy. We get a 1.5 second penalty. How deeply unfortunate for our race that would happen. We enter the back straight. I'm over a second ahead, but we've got a 1.5 second penalty. We're going to lose a lot of time here as we cross the penalty zone, painfully slow down. The BMW goes flying through into the lead of the race, and it's a question here of how many positions are we going to lose and how much time are we going to lose to that BMW. We've lost a lot of time. Look at it sailing away into the distance, and Ford GT comes through, Ford Mustang, sorry, comes through. We lose a position, we're down into third, and almost 3 seconds off the lead. So that penalty, well, very, very harsh, not harsh, but like, it really did take a lot of time out. It probably cost me 3 seconds, I'd say, maybe 4 seconds even. We're not going to hang about here. Taking back second and taking back control of this race, in the sense that I've just now got a gap between myself and the lead. All I have to do is try to catch up with no interruptions. 2.4 seconds away, 3 laps to go. You do the math, 0.8 seconds away. Now, I really do need to catch up as fast as possible to give myself as many chances of trying to overtake this guy. And as we cross the mountain here on the second lap, the gap did come down. At this point now, at this point here, 2 seconds, or 1.8 actually. So we've already gained about 0.6 on this lap. So we can definitely do this. This is not impossible, even if it is such a short race. And even though it is a lower rated lobby, we want to improve our position. We want to finish first. That's always good, isn't it? That is the key objective of racing. We're going to do our best. We finished third in the first one. We finished fourth in the last one, the second one. And fourth is worse than third, but first is better than third and fourth for those mathematics enthusiasts amongst you. Now, let's drop down the back straight here, down the hill, wind up that speed, almost hitting 160 miles per hour before we hit the anchors into the chase. And let's take a look at the gap. It's 1.4 seconds. So we've definitely gained, but we're about to definitely lose here because I just don't turn in. I almost forgot to turn in, and we lose about half a second through that one corner. It's quite a crucial corner. It's very easy to lose a lot of time given how long that corner is. So if you don't commit early enough, you're just going very wide for a long time. And this is the situation then at the beginning of the final lap. 1.6 seconds behind. The driver in the lead, excruciatingly close, but not close enough. I can't even send in dive bomb of the millennium from this sort of distance. That is just not feasible at this point in time. We need to gain a lot more. We need to get at least within slipstream range by the time we get onto the back straight. 0.7 seconds, that kind of distance behind. That might give us a chance down towards the chase. And You know, we're going to be feeding off scraps here at the end of this race, as we've only got less than a lap now, so we're not going to have many opportunities. Even if we do catch him up, even if we caught him up right now, it's still going to be hard to win. Now take a look at that. He's actually into Barrier, giving him a sizable kiss on the way through the top of the mountain. So the pressure is on. Surely he's feeling it right now. As we now begin our descent for the final time, the gap is down to 0.8 of a second. We are certainly getting closer and closer. His car is taking up more pixels on my screen. That is indication that I am closing up the gap as we enter the back straight for the final time. Are we in slipstream range? Yes, we are. 0.6 is the gap. Let's get this Mazda Atenza really screaming down this back straight to try to catch up as much as we possibly can. The gap comes down slightly from about just under 0.7 to 0.6. We haven't actually gained a huge amount there, but this is where the gaining occurs. Look at this. Late on the brakes, carrying the speed in. I'm not sure what he was so afraid of there. He just carried no speed in. We've got one final corner to get this move done. We're going to fake him out to the right, switch to the left, dive bomb him into the final turn. And as we come through the exit of the corner, he's going to try to wipe us out with a pit manoeuvre. I'm going to say no thank you, good sir. Introduce him to Barrier on the inside. And we're going to claim the victory. Oh my goodness. What a moment of madness there at the end of the race. We caught him up, did the old fake out, cut to the inside, and then on the exit, he was having none of it. But then, simultaneously, I was also having none of it. So I introduced him to the wall and said, thank you very much, good sir. I will be taking this race and the clean race bonus. And look at that. He questioned me in the comments afterwards. I think the replays are quite conclusive here. As we take another look. Look at that. Straight up the inside. He tried to turn left in reaction to the move. And then here he's turning right on a straight. Quite diabolical scenes at the final corner. Let's take a slightly closer look at this. And you can see his steering action. He actually definitely turns left to try to cut me off in reaction. And then this, Your Honour, is the evidence I'd like to point you towards. As he's quite clearly turning right in an attempt to try to pit manoeuvre me like he's in the American police. Didn't quite work out for you there though, unfortunately, mate. And we ultimately claimed the win. So if I have one request for you guys, it's that you just tell your grandchildren about this incredible moment in Gran Turismo history. That's all I ask of you. But that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Take care. Goodbye.